What's up guys, it's Josh from KeepItTechie, and today I want to do a quick video showing you guys Docker. Okay, so Docker is a open source, lightweight virtualization tool which runs on top of the operating system. It allows users to create, run, and deploy applications encapsulated in small containers. These type of Linux containers are proven to be faster, portable, and more secure. And also the processes that run within the container are isolated from the main host machine. So therefore it prevents outside tampering. And what I want to do in today's video is show you guys how to install as well as run a few commands by manipulating containers within Docker. And I'll be doing that in CentOS. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to show you guys is actually installing Docker on CentOS 8. And as you can see, I'm SSH'd into my CentOS server. It's running in a virtual machine just for this demonstration video. And as you can see, I catted out the etc CentOS release. And this is release 8.1.1911 core, and this is what I'll be using to install Docker on. Now on CentOS 8 there have been some changes. Red Hat has removed Docker from the main repository. It was in the main repository. That's why in CentOS 7 you can just basically run yum install and then Docker. But they removed it from the repository because they came up with their own tool that they wanted to use as far as managing containers goes, and to get away from using Docker in Red Hat. So CentOS follows Red Hat pretty much. So now that Docker is removed from the repository, you have to jump through a few hoops in order to get it installed on CentOS 8. That's why I wanted to show you guys on 8 so you guys can see what you have to do in order to get Docker on CentOS 8. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is add the repo to CentOS, and we're going to be using the curl command. And as you can see, it's sudo curl and then the Docker repo, and we want to add that repo to CentOS. Press enter. Type in my sudo password and should be good to go. Okay, and the next command is basically sudo yum make cache and press enter, and this will update the cache for the system. Okay, and so now the next command is actually installing Docker community edition on the system. So it's sudo dnf -y install docker -ce -nubis and press enter, and that will install Docker for you. Okay, so now Docker is completely installed. The first thing you want to do is go on and enable Docker. And the command to do that is simply sudo systemctl enable --now and then Docker. And that will actually enable it, so when you reboot the server or the system, whatever you're running Docker on, it will come up as soon as you start the system. And now let's look at the status. So if we go sudo systemctl status Docker, this will show us the status, and as you can see, it's running. It should be good to go. So now Docker is completely installed and started enabled on the system. So now let's check the actual version of Docker. And so we could just run a simple command, especially Docker version, press enter. And right now it'll only show the client version because it creates the group for Docker, but it doesn't add the user to the group. So we have to physically add that user to the group. So I want to do that right fast and just show you guys how to do that. So you can run Docker commands without typing sudo. Otherwise, you will have to be logged in as root in order to not type sudo. So let's add my user to the group, and it's basically sudo user mod dash lowercase a capital G Docker, which is the group, and my user, which is Josh. So your user, just put your username there, and it will add your user to that group. And if we run ID Josh, it will list out the groups that we are in. And actually, I'm in the wheel group and Docker, which is the last one. So now that we added ourselves to that group, the best thing for you to do is actually log out and log back into the system. That way it recognizes your account being a part of that group. So I'm going to type exit, and we will SSH into the server again under my account, which is Josh. Press enter. And now we should be good to go as far as running Docker version. And this should list out the client. As you can see, it lists out the client and the server versions, which is 19.03 for the client and 18.08 for the server community edition of Docker. Okay, so now that we're finished with that, we have installed Docker. We have completely configured it. So now we can start playing around with it and testing Docker to make sure it's set up properly. And the first command you want to run when you have Docker set up is actually by downloading a test image. And there is a test image built into Docker. And so we can run that right now. And the command is docker run hello -world. And I find this to be the easiest image to actually look at so people can understand how this actually works. So if we run that, and as you can see, it won't find it locally, so it'll pull it down. They should make that download automatically with the installation. That way you can, just test the image or whatever. But I mean, that lets you know everything worked out. And if we read up here, it says hello from Docker. This message shows that the installation appears to be working correctly, which is a good thing. So, okay, so now that we tested it and made sure it's working properly, the first thing I want to do is show you guys the help, which you can simply type Docker in, and this will give you a list of all the commands that you can run with the Docker command. And if we go up here to the top, this is the usage, so Docker, and then the options, and then the command. So here are the options right here. These are the different options you can use, as well as the commands that you can put in. And here are some more of the commands. So that's a good thing to look at and reference in case you forget what you're trying to type out. Okay, so now to the fun part. Let's go on and show you guys how to download an image as well as set up some containers. And what you want to do is start searching for an image. And as you can see, this is one of the commands here, Docker search. And that's the command I want to use. So it's basically Docker search, and what I want to look for is a Ubuntu image, which is pretty simple, and this will pull up all the Docker images that are made with Ubuntu. And as you can see, they have different types. You can get Ubuntu with VNC interface, Dockerized SSH service, headless VNC session. They got a whole bunch of different types of Ubuntu on here. Images. This one right here, this is a good one. It has Apache and PHP. And this one has PHP 7.0. And this is all on, those two are on Ubuntu 16. They have one set up for Nginx. And these images are pre-configured based on the needs of what you're trying to set up. But what I'm going to do is install the base level Ubuntu image. And the way you do that is simply Docker pull and Ubuntu, and this is the base level one. And before I run the command, I just want to let you guys know, if you want to download one of these different images, I forgot to say that, you should put that name here. But I'm gonna download the base Ubuntu one right here. See, it says Ubuntu is a Debian-based Linux operating system. This is the main Ubuntu. So you just copy that name and it'll download Ubuntu for you. And if you use one of these, then that will download whatever, you know, the description is. So you just grab whichever one you're looking for and good to go. So Docker pull Ubuntu, press enter, and this will download that latest image. And it's very small. It shouldn't take too long because, as I stated, you know, the images, they use the kernel. So it's not much to a Docker image. Okay, so now that we have it downloaded, I want to show you the list command. And this basically, or not a list command, but this actually lists out the images that you have installed locally on the system. And the way you do that is by Docker, and you just type images, and that will list out all the images that you have. And it'll show you when it was created, you know, tag, image ID, as well as the size. So as you can see, we have that Ubuntu image that we downloaded and the Hello World image that we downloaded from Docker repository. And this was created 3 weeks ago, the Ubuntu one, and Hello World is probably created, you know, 15 months ago. It's very small. It's only just to show you guys that it works. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you guys is actually running a Docker container. And I just wanted to give you a brief explanation on how it actually works in Docker. When you execute a command against an image, that's when the container is actually created. And then after that command ends, then the container stops. It creates that container, it keeps it around, but it's in a stop state after that command runs. So it's typically made for when different commands need to be ran for whatever application that you're building. It'll run and then stop the container. And that's what kind of makes it good for virtualization, because with a virtual machine, it's constantly running and all those resources are being used. Well, with containers, they'll start and stop depending on what's going on. And you could, you know, specify commands to actually create containers and to run specific commands, or handle certain jobs. And then once they finish that job, they'll stop and release those resources back to the host system. Okay, so let me create that first Docker right fast. And we're going to use that Ubuntu image that we have already installed locally. So if we type Docker run Ubuntu, and this will specify that image. And then let's run a command. Let's run cat and let's look at the issue file under etc. So etc and then issue. And if we press enter on that, it'll basically run the command, you know, spit it out to you, and then basically stop that container. And to actually list out the containers, because the container was created to run that command, once they finish that command, it actually stops it. But in order to look at those containers, I wanted to show you the ps command that you can add to Docker. So if we type Docker ps and then -l, this will list out all the containers. And as you can see, that container was created 49 seconds ago. It exited 45 seconds ago. And this is the ID, the container ID for it, as well as the image that it used. And then the status, that's what that exited mean. It's basically in a stop state at this time. So that means it only ran for 3 seconds to issue this command for you. And the next thing I want to show you guys is with that container that we just created, like I said, it's in a stop state, but we can actually start it again if we wanted to by using this container ID. So you could basically copy that container ID and then run Docker start, and then the container ID, and this will actually start that container again for you. And if you press enter, it will give you an output of just that container ID, and now it's in a stored state. And let's run that docker ps command again, and this will show that that command actually ran again, and it's back in an exited state. But 3 minutes ago, oh crap, it was created 3 minutes ago, and it exited 9 seconds ago. So it ran that cat etc issue command again. And you can run that command as many times, and it'll use that container whenever you call it. So let's say you're writing some Python script or a Python script, you can call a container that you created with a specific command in it to get it to run to, let's say, output some data that you're trying to pull down. That's a real practical way of explaining it. Let's say this container is trying to extract some stuff from a database or something that you need for a Python script that you're writing. So you can call that container by using the start command to run that command again for you, and it'll, let's say you're exporting it to a CSV for the Python script. So it'll call it, run it, and then you can pull that data into the Python script to do whatever you're trying to do. So I just wanted to give you like a real world example of what you can actually do with these containers. And as you can see, there's no need to stop that container because it's in a stop state now, because it only had to run that issue command, which only takes like about 3 seconds to run. But there is a way to actually stop a Docker container by running the same command, but instead of start, you just type stop, and it'll stop that container for you, which we didn't have to because it's already in a stop state. And we could tell by the exit status 2 minutes ago. So it's been about 2 minutes since I ran this command up here. Okay, so now that we've done that, I want to move a little further along and show you guys how to actually open up an interactive connection to a container or an interactive shell. And it's a simple command to run to actually do this. We have to create a new container, and we can simply go docker run dash I and T. And just to explain what I is, it is used to start an interactive session, and T is used to allocate a TTY. So that's what those options mean. I just wanted to explain that to you so you guys would know. And then the next thing is the actual image, which is Ubuntu, and then bash. And if we press enter on that, that will actually start up a container for us. And now we're connected to that container using interactive shell. So it's simply just like you're logging into another system. And you can run any command you want, like simply I'll run and actually we don't have to type sudo, because when you create a container, it automatically logs you in as root. So we can run sudo, and I keep doing that, apt updates, press enter, and as you can see, it will try to refresh the Ubuntu repositories. I'm not sure why it's erroring out. Oh, you know what? Firewall. That's one thing I forgot about. CentOS 8. When installing Docker on CentOS 8, you have to open the firewall. And actually, let me do that now so I can make sure I do this video correctly. So I'm going to exit out of this container and disable the firewall by using sudo system ctl disable firewall D, and this should fix our problem. In order to get the DNS resolution to work, I had to restart or actually turn off the firewall in order to get the DNS resolution to work, and then also reboot the system. So right now I'm logged back into the server, the CentOS server, and I should have fixed that problem. So we're gonna run that same command again, which is sudo, which is actually docker run -it Ubuntu bash, and this will create that interactive shell that I was talking about. And once you logged into that container, you can then update the system. You know, you can run all types of commands in here. So I'm gonna run apt update, press enter, and as you can see, the resolution is working now, the DNS resolution, which was what was giving me trouble or whatever. But we can update this container, you know, with the latest packages if you want to. I'm not going to do it. I just wanted to show you guys how to actually do it. And in order to stop that container, we just simply type exit, and this will exit out that container. And it will put it in a stop state. Now, let's say we want to keep that container in a running state. So if we type docker run it, run dash it ubuntu bash, press enter, that'll create a new container. And let's say we want to leave it in a running state without logging out of it. So we want to keep that container actually running. So it's simply a couple keystrokes you have to do, which is Control P and then Control Q. And that'll exit out of that container while leaving it running. And just to show you that it's still running, we can actually run, and then let me press enter so you guys can know that I'm in the host machine. And we can run that command docker ps and then dash L, and we press enter. We'll see that this interactive shell is still up. The status of it is still up. It was created 2 minutes ago and it's still up. That means it's still running. Now, in order to connect back to that container, we need that container ID and also a simple command, which is docker attach and then the container ID. And that'll attach us back to that container that's currently running. And as you can see, we're back connected to it. And then let's get out of this container right fast but leaving it running. So it's Control P and then Control Q. That'll get us out of it. And if we run that PS command again, we'll see that it's still running. The status is still running. So I wanted to show you guys another command, which is the kill command. Now this will kill a container that you have running. It'll kill it for you. So if you have a container open, you just need the container ID for it. So you just simply type docker kill and then the container ID, and this will kill that container for us. And once that finishes, we can go in and run that PS command again. This will list it out. They'll show that it's exited right now or it's gone. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. Docker is a really cool application. You know, you might want to sit up and learn. This can help you in the future for future jobs that you may be going for. Docker is used in the industry heavily, in the IT industry heavily, especially when we're talking about cloud computing. So again, I hope you guys got something out of it. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna keep coming with these Linux videos, just showing you guys different applications and how to use them. Hopefully you can use this to actually create something great. Thanks for watching, and keep it techie.